Marvin Gaye's life was filled with so much intrigue, but nothing prepared his fans for the investigation that was carried out after his death. Would you like to know what was found? Join us as we uncover what the FBI found during their investigation.
Mother, there's too many of you crying.
Unfolding: Marvin's death and the investigations that followed. Everything started on March 31, 1984, when tensions rose in the Gaye household over misplaced business documents, notably an essential insurance policy. Marvin Gaye Sr. accused his wife, Alberta, of misplacing these papers, leading to a heated argument that spilled into their son Marvin's bedroom. Awakened by the commotion, Marvin sided with his mother, firmly instructing his father to leave her alone. Marvin Sr. complied initially, but continued to roam the house, muttering to himself. This incident occurred during a period when Marvin Sr. had been drinking, making the situation more intense. The following day, April 1, the conflict went further. Marvin Sr. called for Alberta to come downstairs from Marvin's room. Marvin intervened again, asserting that if his father wished to speak with her, he should do so directly. When Marvin Sr. ignored this request and entered Marvin's room, a heated argument ensued. In a fit of frustration and anger, Marvin pushed his father out of the room, shouting at him. According to Alberta, Marvin struck and kicked his father during this misunderstanding. Eventually, Alberta persuaded her son to leave the room. However, at approximately 12:38 p.m., Marvin Sr. returned to Marvin's room armed with a .38 caliber pistol, a gift from Marvin. In a tragic turn of events, he released it on Marvin's chest, with the bullet penetrating vital organs, including his heart. He did it again. This time, it got Marvin at point-blank range. Alberta had already fled the room after the initial sound of the pistol, desperately imploring her husband not to turn the weapon on her next. Marvin was swiftly transported to the California Hospital Medical Center, where he succumbed to his injuries shortly after arrival. He was officially declared dead at the age of 44. Alberta was the sole individual present when her husband fatally opened fire on their son. Overwhelmed by the horror of the situation, she fled, leaving her younger son, Frankie, and his wife, who were residing in a guest house on the property, as the first witnesses to the aftermath of Marvin Gaye's untimely death. Frankie recounted the traumatic experience, describing how his mother fell to the ground, exclaiming that Marvin Sr. had ended her boy's life. Upon the arrival of law enforcement, Marvin Gaye Sr. was discovered seated calmly on the porch, still holding the firearm. When questioned by the police regarding his feelings towards his son, he chillingly remarked that he didn't dislike him. Despite his previously expressed hostility towards Marvin, there seemed to be a notable change in his demeanor following the tragic event. He began to articulate feelings of sorrow over the loss of his child, and claimed that he was not fully aware of his actions during an interview conducted while he awaited trial. Gaye confessed that although he pulled the trigger, he believed then that the weapon contained BB pellets rather than live ammunition. This statement indicates a complex interplay of remorse and a potential attempt to lessen the gravity of his actions. Gaye Sr. recounted the fatal incident, noting that the first shot did not appear to disturb Marvin, who raised his hand to his face as if he had been struck by a BB, prompting him to fire again. To justify himself, Gaye Sr. characterized his son as having devolved into a beast-like figure, attributing this transformation to an alleged violent confrontation initiated by Marvin prior to the shooting incident. However, subsequent investigations did not corroborate Gaye Sr.'s assertions. Lieutenant Robert Martin, the primary investigator, reported a lack of physical evidence, noting that there were no signs of bruising or any indication that Marvin had been physically harassed. This absence of corroborative evidence raised significant doubts about Gaye Sr.'s rationale for his actions, illustrating a tragic narrative of a family fractured by violence and substance misuse. Furthermore, it was determined that Gaye Sr. was competent and the judicial system proceeded accordingly. Distressed neighbors recounted that the dispute leading up to Marvin Gaye's death centered on preparations for the singer's impending 45th birthday, which was set for the following day. However, later accounts indicated that the conflict may have stemmed from a misplaced insurance policy letter, which incited Marvin Gaye's fury. Regardless of the underlying cause and the legitimacy of Gaye Sr.'s claims. Concerning BB pellets, he expressed regret, revealing that he was unaware of his son's death until a detective informed him hours later. This expression of remorse highlights the tragic and intricate nature of the situation, emphasizing the deep-seated discord within the family and the irreversible ramifications of their confrontation. In an unexpected development, the court seemed to exhibit a degree of leniency towards Gaye Sr.'s account of the events. Marvin Gaye's tragic death was marked by the brutal circumstances surrounding it. In the aftermath, his father, Marvin Sr., was allowed to enter a plea of no contest to a single charge of voluntary manslaughter. He received a suspended sentence of 6 years, accompanied by 5 years of probation. Following this legal resolution, Marvin Sr. spent the remainder of his life in a nursing home in California, where he passed away in 1998 at the age of 84. Although Marvin Jr.'s life was cut short and untimely, he ensured to leave a quality legacy for his fans. Let's explore the legacy he left behind.
When I see the people react and that they love you and the way they applaud, I really don't see you that much. I'm looking at the people.
Leaving unforgettable legacy. Marvin Gaye's legacy left a deep mark on his fans, who mourned his loss and remembered him as one of the greatest soul artists of all time. Many expressed their sadness, with some feeling a sense of betrayal over how his life ended. The fact that his own father was responsible for his death made the tragedy even more painful. And some believed Marvin Sr. would have to live with the weight of his actions forever. When Marvin Sr. faced sentencing on November 20th, 1984, he showed regret for what had happened. He admitted that he wished things could have been different, and that if there were a way to bring his son back, he would have done it. Despite his apology, the damage had already been done, and nothing could undo the loss the world had suffered. Marvin Gaye's life was filled with ups and downs, but his music and influence continued to inspire generations. While many people know about his talent and the tragic way his life ended, there are still details about him that remain fascinating. For instance, one of the most interesting things about him was his decision to add an extra E to his last name. It might seem like a small change, but the reason behind it tells a deeper story about who he was as a person. Marvin's deep secret. Marvin Gaye grew up in a strict religious home in a poor and segregated neighborhood in southwest Washington, D.C. He lived with his parents, his older sister Jean, his younger brother Frankie, and his younger sister Zola. Their father, who was a minister, did not allow them to watch television, dance, or go to the movies. He was known for being extremely strict and often used both physical and emotional discipline, with Marvin being the most frequent target. Marvin, on the other hand, often acted out, hoping to get his father's attention. His mother helped support the family by working as a teacher and also taking on domestic jobs. Despite the difficulties at home, Marvin spent a lot of time with his father at church, where he started singing and playing instruments when he was just 3 years old. As he grew older, he developed a passion for music and joined a doo-wop group called the DC Tones. However, he eventually left school and enlisted in the Air Force. His time in the military was short-lived, as he was discharged within a year. After returning home to Washington, D.C., he became part of another doo-wop group called the Marquis. It was during this time that Marvin met Harvey Fuqua, a meeting that would change the course of his musical career. The Marquis later merged with Fuqua's group, the Moonglows. Eager to refine his musical talents, Marvin moved to Chicago, where he gained experience in both the creative and technical aspects of music. While learning about music on a professional level, he also started experimenting with different styles. That same year, He got his first opportunity as a lead singer when he recorded the song Mama Lucy. Fuqua, who saw great potential in Marvin, decided to take him to Detroit and help him secure a contract with Gwen Gordy's record label, Ain't Records, which was associated with Motown. Although Marvin had signed with the label, he mostly worked behind the scenes at first. He played the drums and piano for other artists, even contributing to the success of the Marvelettes' hit song. As he continued his journey in the music industry, Marvin made a bold decision to officially change his name. He added an extra E to his last name, becoming Marvin Gaye. He did this for multiple reasons: to distinguish himself from his father, to put an end to rumors about his personal life, and to pay tribute to one of his musical idols, Sam Cooke. Marvin soon started releasing his own music, making a name for himself as a solo artist. In May, he introduced his first single, which featured Let Your Conscience Be Your Guide on one side and Never Let You Go on the other. A month later, he took another big step in his career by launching his first album, The Soulful Moods of Marvin Gaye. By October, he joined the first ever Motown Revue tour, traveling across the country and performing alongside other Motown stars. At the start of his career, Marvin received little direction from Motown's artistic team, but he took note of the advice given to him. One of the suggestions was to avoid singing with his eyes closed while performing. Over time, he learned to command the stage with his voice and presence. By December, his song, Stubborn Kind of Fellow, started gaining popularity, reaching number 8 on the R&B charts and number 46 on the pop charts. This song truly reflected his personality, as determined and passionate. His success only continued to grow, with songs like Hitchhike and Pride and Joy making him a well-known name in the music industry. As he progressed in his career, Marvin achieved incredible milestones. In one of his most successful years, he released 4 hit songs, 2 of which were duets with Tammy Terrell. These collaborations became fan favorites and both made it to the top 10 in the US charts. However, his biggest breakthrough came with the release of I Heard It Through the Grapevine. This song became his first number 1 hit on the pop charts, selling nearly 4 million copies. It remained at the top of the charts for 7 weeks, marking his status as a music icon. Not long after, he released another game-changing single, What's Going On. The song resonated deeply with listeners and became the fastest-selling record in Motown's history. By March, Marvin had started working on an album with the same title, pouring his heart and soul into the music. When What's Going On was released in May, it became an instant success. On the very first day, 500,000 copies were sold, and it quickly climbed to number 6 on the US charts. While many knew Marvin Gaye for his powerful voice and emotional music, there was something more about him that made him truly special. His impact on Motown went beyond just singing. His music carried messages that touched people's hearts, and his presence in the industry helped shape the sound of an entire generation. The noticeable shift. Many personal experiences shaped Marvin Gaye's music and influenced the kind of artist he became. One of the biggest turning points in his life was when his brother Frankie returned from the Vietnam War. Hearing about the terrible things that happened during the war deeply affected Marvin. It made him feel an overwhelming need to create something meaningful, which led to the birth of his legendary album, What's Going On. This album, released in 1971, carried a strong message of peace and spirituality, making it one of the most powerful records in music history. Through this album, Marvin Gaye shifted the direction of both Motown and soul music at a very crucial time. Before this, most black artists followed a standard song format, but Marvin was among the first to break away from that. He embraced the concept album style, where every song was connected and told a deeper story. More importantly, he used his music to speak about real issues that were often ignored, such as racial injustice and the need to protect the environment. His fearless approach made his music stand out and gave people something to think about. Another groundbreaking thing about What's Going On was how it recognized the talented musicians behind the scenes at Motown. For the first time, Marvin Gaye made sure that the names of the studio musicians were included in the album credits. This was a big deal because these musicians played an important role in creating Motown's signature sound, yet they had never been acknowledged in such a way before. It's been years since Marvin's death, but do you know that there was a recent discovery about his unreleased song? Stay tuned to see how it happened. The posthumous discovery. Marvin Gaye was one of the greatest musicians of his time, known for his soulful voice and deep lyrics. His death in 1984 shocked the world, but even after he was gone, his music continued to live on. What many people did not know was that he had created music that was never officially released while he was alive. Over the years, some of these hidden recordings surfaced, giving fans a new way to experience his genius. One of the first posthumous releases came in 1985 with the album Dream of a Lifetime. This album contained songs that Gaye had worked on before his death, but had never released. Some of the tracks were originally recorded during his Midnight Love sessions, but they were never included in the final album. After his passing, his guitarist and brother-in-law, Gordon Banks, helped complete and produce these songs. Some of the songs had a raw, unfinished quality to them, but they still carried Gaye's signature sound. This album provided a glimpse into the direction his music might have taken had he lived longer. A year later, in 1986, another collection of unreleased songs was brought to the public. This album, called Motown, Remembers Marvin Gaye, Never Before Released Masters, featured recordings that had been made between 1963 and 1972. These were songs that had been left out of earlier albums for various reasons, either because they did not fit the theme of an album or because they were unfinished. Some of these recordings were later modified with additional background vocals and drum programming to give them a more modern feel. Although these changes were not originally part of Gaye's vision, they allowed listeners to experience previously unheard work from the legendary artist. As time went on, more lost music continued to be found. Many of Marvin Gaye's recordings had been stored away, either forgotten or ignored for years. Some of them were incomplete, while others were nearly finished, but never officially released. His music had always been deeply personal, and some of the songs he never released seemed to reflect parts of his life that he had not yet shared with the world. Some of these tracks remained in the hands of music producers, while others were hidden away in archives, waiting to be rediscovered. One of the most surprising discoveries came decades after Gaye's death. In 2024, an important collection of his unreleased recordings was found in Belgium. During the early 1980s, Gaye had spent time in the coastal city of Ostend, where he worked on new music while trying to rebuild his life. It was there that he stayed with a Belgian musician named Charles Dumoulin. After Gaye left Belgium, Dumoulin kept some of the materials that the singer had worked on. For years, these recordings remained in storage, unknown to the public. The discovery in Belgium included 66 demo recordings spread across 30 tapes. These tapes contained songs that had never been heard before, providing a rare look into Gaye's creative process. Alongside the tapes, there were also other personal items such as costumes, notebooks, and letters. These materials offered insight into his mindset during the time he spent in Belgium. Many of the recordings were rough drafts of songs, with Gaye experimenting with melodies and lyrics. Some of them were just vocal ideas without full instrumentals, while others sounded more complete. Experts who examined the tapes believe that these recordings captured a side of Gaye that the public had never fully experienced. The tapes from Belgium were not just a random collection of songs, but seemed to show a transition in Gaye's music. They revealed new ideas that he had been working on, some of which might have made it into future albums if he had lived longer. Some of the music reflected the struggles he was facing at the time, including his battles with addiction and his desire for a fresh start. Even though these recordings were unfinished, they still carried the emotional depth and powerful vocals that made Gaye's music so special. The discovery of these lost recordings created excitement among music historians and fans alike. Finding unreleased songs from a legend like Marvin Gaye was rare, and these tapes offered a new way to understand his artistry. While some of the songs were clearly rough drafts, others sounded like they could have been fully produced and released had Gaye been given the time. Experts debated what should be done with the tapes, as releasing unfinished songs could sometimes be controversial. Some believed that the recordings should be left as they were, preserving Gaye's raw creativity, while others thought that producers could complete them in a way that honored his original style. Gaye's music had always been deeply emotional, often reflecting his personal experiences. His ability to connect with listeners through his voice and lyrics made his songs timeless. Even decades after his passing, the discovery of these lost recordings showed that his influence had not faded. Each new song that surfaced gave fans another piece of his story, allowing them to hear his voice in a way they had never heard before. His time in Belgium was a period of transformation, and the music from that time captured both his struggles and his hopes for the future. The significance of these unreleased recordings went beyond just music. They were a reminder of how much talent and creativity Gaye had, even in his most difficult moments. Each song, whether finished or not, told a story about where he was emotionally and artistically. His journey had been filled with both triumphs and challenges, and these lost songs provided another chapter in his legacy. So what do you think about Marvin's life? Do you think he got the justice he deserved? Let us know in the comments section. If you want more interesting revelations about your favorite celebrities, be sure to like, subscribe, and watch the next video shown on your screen. See you there.